XFL players cut from the NFL roster. What's going to happen to these players? Let's talk about it. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me again right here on XFL Talk, right here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, Desmond Dukes. Turn on that bell for all notifications and smash that like button and leave a comment because you know I love comments here. So let's get down to brass tacks. The XFL, there have been a number of players from rosters in the XFL that have been moved over to the NFL. They were either signed or drafted. Now, that was like a couple of months back. Now, the NFL rosters had to be cut from 80 to 53. Everybody knows that. But those roster cuts have been completed as of yesterday. And I have a complete list of all of the XFL players that were cut. Special thanks to XFL News Hub for bringing this news to light. So let's get right down into it. All right. So with these XFL player roster cuts, first one that was cut from the XFL was none other than Cam Phillips. And he was the wide receiver for the Houston Roughnecks, who actually had a shot at playing with the Carolina Panthers alongside with PJ Walker, who was also a quarterback, who was the quarterback for the Houston Roughnecks, and that was his main target. Like, him and Cam Phillips just gelled so well together. And it is unfortunate news to hear about that, but Cam Phillips has been cut. He didn't really get a shot. He was only there like a little over a week, if that. And he was cut, unfortunately. He goes back into free agency. Jordan Ta'amu, who was the quarterback for the St. Louis Battlehawks, who was cut as a backup quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. That is unfortunate news for him. DeMornay Personnel, who was the running back, the wide receiver for the St. Louis Battlehawks, who was supposed to be playing, hopefully, with the Las Vegas Raiders. He was also cut from their roster. Devron, trying to pronounce his name, Devron Henry. There we go. Sorry about that. Now, he was the defensive back for his team when he played for, I'm trying to remember because it's been a while since I've seen him play. Let me see. He played for New York Giants. Well, he was cut from the New York Giants. Oh, he was with the Guardians, the New York Guardians, and he was cut from the New York Giants. Now, remember, he was the defensive back for them. Moving on, Kayvon Walker. He was Kayvon Walker was one of the first XFL players that was originally signed in the NFL, who had the most leading sacks in the XFL. Now, he was also with the New York Guardians. He was their defensive tackle. And unfortunately, he was cut from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's see. John Toth, who was picked up by the Cleveland Browns, was also cut, in which he was part of that roster he was the center. He was the center for the DC Defenders. So that is unfortunate news for John. And uh, Jacquees Patrick, who was picked up by the Cincinnati Bengals. He was their running back, and he was cut. The team that he played for in the XFL was the Tampa Bay Vipers. Colin Thompson, which was kind of a surprise for me. He was the, let's see, he was the Tampa Bay Vipers tight end, and he was cut from the Carolina Panthers. Nick Moore, who was picked up at first by the Baltimore Ravens, who was also a guy from the Tampa Bay Vipers, he has been cut as well, and he was their long snapper for the Tampa Bay Vipers. Sneed Blacknall, who was also picked up by the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was their, I want to say he was the running back, I think. Oh no, he was with the Wildcats. I knew that, but it doesn't say. Oh, so he was their wide receiver. So he was the wide receiver for the LA Wildcats. He was picked up by the Pittsburgh Steelers and was cut by the Steelers. DeAndre Tompkins, he was also picked up by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was the he was the backup quarterback. Yep. So, okay, no. So he was with the DC Defenders, and he was their wide receiver, and he was cut from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, hopefully, he gets to go back to DC, but we'll see. Let's see, Michael Dunn, who was picked up by the Cleveland Browns, and he was originally on the XFL team, the Seattle Dragon, and he was their guard, and he was also cut from their roster. Josh Hawkins. Yep, Josh Hawkins. He was picked up by the Atlanta Falcons and then was let go by the Atlanta Falcons. Now, he was their cornerback for the Dallas Renegades. So that is unfortunate for him. Edmund Robinson, who was also picked up by the Atlanta Falcons. He was their linebacker for the Houston Roughnecks. And he was cut, unfortunately. And he had a big game with that Texas showdown between Dallas and Houston. He played a great game. Jordan Jones, who was picked up by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was originally with the LA Wildcats. He was with the New York Guardians, and he was. See, some of these were easy to find, and some of these were not. So you guys have to. I have to apologize for you guys noticing that, but yeah, he was cut from their roster, and he was. Let me see. Yeah, he was part of the. He was part of the Guardians, so he was with the New York Guardians on that. Anthony Coyle from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was also part of the New York Guardians, and he was also cut from their roster. So that is unfortunate news. John Kanoy, I think I pronounced his name right. John Kanoy, who was picked up by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he originally was the offensive lineman for the Dallas Renegades, and he was cut. His name is going to be Khalil McKenzie. There we go. He was picked up by the Cincinnati Bengals. He originally played for the LA Wildcats, and he was also cut. And he was their running back for the LA Wildcats. Severian Smith, who was picked up originally for the Dallas Cowboys, and he was the cornerback for the Houston Roughnecks, and he was cut from their roster. Zach Klein was going to play with the Tennessee Titans, and he was also cut. Now he was the New York Guardians offensive lineman, and he was unfortunately cut. Will Clark was picked up by the Detroit Lions. I was actually surprised because I didn't think the Lions picked up anybody. He originally was with the St. Louis Battlehawks, and he was there. He was the deep defensive lineman, and he was cut from the Lions. Austin McGinnis, he was picked up by the Los Angeles Rams, and he was the kicker for the Dallas Renegades. He was also cut from the LA Rams. Tyler Gunther. Yeah, Gunther. He was picked up by the New England Patriots. He was the offensive lineman for the St. Louis Battlehawks, and he was cut. So I do believe that was all of the cuts from all of those players. Now, bring that up. There's a lot of those players that were cut. And the situation that I have with these cuts is that a lot of these players had so much potential, and they were looking to get back into the NFL with such high expectation. And it's not even really the fact that they weren't bad, but they have to, the NFL with these new, because of everything dealing with COVID, having to cut back on their rosters quite a bit. This made things difficult, and it would have made it 10 times harder for them versus somebody who was fresh out of college and was drafted. So these kinds of things kind of go hand in hand. And you would think as an XFL player, you would get a much better shot and a better opportunity, but I guess it just didn't work out that way. So these kinds of things happen. It is what it is. So the best thing they could do is continue to move forward and look at different avenues of what they can do in the future. So let's talk about the future of these players. Okay. There was a lot of players on this list, but not as much as we thought. Obviously, PJ Walker stayed on. So that was a huge plus. We know Donald Parham, he's still on, and there's still quite a few other players that are still on those rosters. So out of 31 to 30, I think it was 30 up to 35 XFL players, only that many players got cut. That's somewhere around like 10 or 11, which isn't bad. You're still over half. So this still shows that the XFL has lots of promise going into it with them bringing in more players and doing what they need to do. Now, as for these players, my feeling is Cam Phillips will probably go back to Houston. I think that would be a smart move. I think that would be a great move. Now, with some of these other guys, Austin McGinnis, I'm sure he'll get back playing with the Dallas Renegades once again. I think that would really help him out. Will Clark, with him, the way he played with St. Louis, I thought he did a tremendous job at what he was doing. And there's a potential that he could continue to move on and get better and then possibly get another shot back in there. So I could see him doing some wonderful things. Savion Smith, he was interesting because when he played with the Houston Roughnecks as their cornerback, he was really solid. Like, you didn't see a lot of his name being mentioned, but from a defensive standpoint, I thought he did a pretty good job out there on that field. So, it is what it is. Now, probably the one that probably surprised me the most was probably Jordan Ta'amu. And the reason why I say that is because Jordan Ta'amu, the Kansas City Chiefs, including Andy Reid, the head coach, have been saying all these wonderful things about him and how, he's really come along and he's learned, everything, and he's picked it up like super quick, and he's just a great, great quarterback. And this is coming from him and the backup quarterback as well. So how is it that someone that promising just gets cut? Like, I could see if he was making too many mistakes or something and he just wasn't quite ready. I think he's more than ready. I think he's not Mahomes ready, but he was ready enough that he could play backup for that backup. So, it is what it is. Some of these players have been relegated back to the practice squad, which I don't think is fair. But they did get signed. This is what they got going for them, and they're going to be stuck with that for a little bit. There's so much potential. There is a chance. There is a chance with that potential to go back to the XFL. Take what you've learned from these training camps, take it back to the XFL, and then bring a little extra legitimacy to that league. Now, the league already had great legitimacy as it was, but this just enhances a lot of those players that were picked up, because now you're looking at a situation where the XFL can thrive knowing that they've got the training from the NFL, from their training camps. Because remember, these training camps have been going on for quite a few weeks. And you can actually go on YouTube and watch some of the training camps that were going on from each team. And you can see the progress that these teams are making. So with some of these XFL players that have stepped into those roles and learning the way they do things, I think is a testament to what they can, all that knowledge that they can just soak in and then take it back out onto the football field, under that gridiron, if they decide to go back to the XFL. But that's just how I feel where the future of these players are. The future lies with them. Do they really want to go back? Some of them may like the money and they'll stick with being in a practice squad. Hey, to each their own. I say you need to get out there and prove yourself. Keep trying to prove yourself. If the practice squad will help you do that, that's fine. That's, the practice squad has always been kind of the behind the scenes team, in case anything happens to the main squad. But nevertheless, there's always room of growth. And with that growth is real possibility for them to either continue their career in the NFL or take it back to the XFL in that regard. But you guys let me know what you think about that. How do you feel about these roster cuts from the NFL of these XFL players? Do you feel that they should have had a better shot? Because some of them came in really late and were there, like Cam Phillips. He was there a week and then they cut him. So he really didn't get enough of the opportunity to really present himself well. But you guys tell me what you guys think of that and what your thoughts are on the future of these players. So now comes my thoughts. Honestly, in my own opinion, I feel bad for these players. I think, yes, there is room for growth, but I feel that a lot of them should have never left the XFL. They should have never left. For some reason, I knew the NFL would find a way to screw a lot of them. And it's not even half of their fault. Some of them came in late. Some of them, like I just said, Jordan Ta'amu showed great promise. Andy Reid was talking about him. So why would you relegate him back to the practice squad? Like, okay, yeah, you're really great, but we're going to put you on the practice squad for now. I'm like, dude, I could have stayed where I was at. I was the head quarterback for the St. Louis Battlehawks. Now I'm relegated to being a practice squad quarterback on the Kansas City Chiefs. That's, in some ways, that's got to feel demoralizing. Because St. Louis loved you. St. Louis loved you. And then you left, which everybody understood. You left, you got a chance to get back into the NFL. Everybody was super proud of you. But the end result wasn't what everybody wanted. And I'm sure it wasn't what you wanted. I say go back to the XFL, be that great quarterback, and get a championship. Get a championship under your belt. Make them see you for more than just a practice squad quarterback. Same thing with Cam Phillips. Same thing with a lot of these players. I mean, DeMornay Personnel was awesome. He was awesome for the St. Louis Battlehawks. And, you know, as like he was like the returner, he could play running back. The dude could do it. And he was really good. So now they have this thing of, well, do we keep him on the practice squad or do we let him go? So it's unfortunate. Some of them will end up going back to free agency. Some of the other ones will be relegated to the practice squad. So they'll still be on the team. They'll just be in the practice squad, which means, in my opinion, the practice squad means you still need a lot of work. I don't know how much more work you can really do with some of these guys, because I felt that they were ready. I don't know. It's just, in my opinion, it's just disappointing. It really is, because these guys got so much potential. And who knows, with Danny Garcia at the helm of this thing for the XFL, maybe they'll find a way to make these players get paid a little bit more. You know, maybe that's one of the avenues that they'll look at. You know, maybe what they were getting paid before wasn't quite where they feel it should be. So maybe they'll increase that sum to make it a little bit more enticing to bring in, you know, a lot more of the players. Maybe they'll jump it up to, you know, quarterbacks, because the quarterbacks at the most were making $750,000. That's the most for a quarterback in the XFL. Danny Garcia at the helm, she might raise up to $1 million, maybe $1.5 million. But nevertheless, I honestly feel that in the XFL that it's going to increase as far as value goes for these players. I think their value will increase. They will want to make that extra money. You'll want to make that good money. And maybe, you know, down the road, the XFL, when it really starts taking off, give it, you know, a good 5-10 years, they can increase it a little bit more and increase it a little bit more. But the league has got some serious proving to do. And I believe with the right players in place, they can definitely make it work. And again, with these players that were originally in the NFL, then went to the XFL, then went back to the NFL, only to get cut again for a lot of them, you know, this is a golden opportunity to just be like, you know what? I'm going to the XFL. It may not be a whole lot of money, but at least I was getting playtime. So that's just how I feel. Practice squads, you know, it is what it is. It's just to help hone in your craft and you do what you got to do. But it's not like getting those reps in. You know, when you're playing out there on that field and you're the star or you're on that starting lineup, it almost feels demoralizing that you went from being in the starting lineup to going into a league that you know you're going to be, you know, you got to bust your tail in, only to be put either on a practice squad or to be let go again. So I don't know. We'll see how this thing plays out. The NFL season apparently is supposed to start up very soon. We'll keep an eye on those players that are playing for certain teams that are still playing right now, and we'll go from there. So we'll see how they do, and hopefully it'll open the doors for other XFL players to step in and hopefully have a chance to stay where they are. But what are you guys' thoughts on this whole thing with the XFL? How do you feel about, you know, the players who were starters or stars in the XFL that were in the NFL and then were cut again? So you guys let me know what your thoughts in the comments below. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. A lot of people have been reporting on this. I just want to go ahead and get my thoughts and opinions out there as well, along with everybody else. Make sure you guys hit up XFL Hub. You can also check out Breaking the Action and the End Zone. Those are a couple of XFL media sites that I highly recommend. Those are great sites. So you guys take care. Have a good night, and we'll see you all later.